Okay, we are live. Thanks for joining me this morning, you guys. I'm excited to do this, and I made a few changes, and I think it clarifies things a little bit better than the other webinar that I have, where it talks about universal laws on the Mechanic to Millionaire channel. So I'm excited to share this with you guys and see if it helps things to sink in a little bit deeper. Help you to have some aha moments if there's some pieces that you're missing in your uh, method of operations that you're using to accomplish your goals and progressively move towards your worthy ideals. So I want to try and go through it quickly so the webinar is not too long and it'll attract more people to watch it. So just going to jump into it now. As many of you know, my mantra is bringing heaven to earth, and really that's where everybody, not just me or not just a select few, but where everybody is getting it. They're putting their lives in harmony with these universal principles. You can call them universal principles of success. I call them that. I'm okay calling them that. I'm also okay calling them God's laws. It's God's universe to me, and it's His laws. And He has so intricately woven into the fabric of everything the principle of cause and effect through upholding certain immutable laws. And they absolutely apply in our lives, whether we're ignorant to them or whether we truly understand them and can um, apply them in our lives in a way that they bring great value and impact into our lives and into other people's lives if we so choose. Right, we can really design our lives any way that we want, and it's understanding these laws. It's like planting a garden. You can plant any seed that you want, knowing in the future that seed is going to produce something, and this is no different. But what we're talking about here is a spiritual seed that is developed and decided on within us. It's always working 24/7. It's just a matter of, are we aware of it working? Because whether we're aware of it or not, it still applies in our lives, even if it is bringing negative effects into our lives. That would be because we're not aligning our lives and putting them in harmony with these laws that attract back to us the things that we're sending out, that we're planting on a daily basis. And it's a great relief and a great sense of hope and joy that overcomes an individual when they start to understand this and they start to see it clearly. They become aware of it, they awaken to it, and they start to apply it in their lives. It really changes a person's outlook and perspective on life, as it did mine. And just real quickly, um, I haven't just read a few books and then decided that I want to teach this. It actually happened through me discovering it, being introduced to the information at a time in my life when I was about as far away, well, not about, I was as far away from my goals and dreams as I could possibly be when it came to how I lived my daily life and the things that I pursued. Like, what was I progressively moving towards? It didn't feel like I was moving towards any of the things that I wanted to when it came to, my career, even my relationships. I have a beautiful family, my wife, beautiful wife, and very supportive. We've always been supportive of each other. But there were just things that I felt like I wasn't measuring up to, and that I expected more out of myself and what I have to bring to the table as being a part of this journey here on earth. Whether that was in a work environment, a family environment, or a religious environment, or hobby. It didn't matter, whatever area. I just felt like I was falling short. And it wasn't due to a lack of me having faith, it was due to a lack of me having a complete understanding of what faith is and what my part is in applying that. We have a saying in our home. It's on one of our guest rooms, and it's live your life as though your prayers were already answered, because they are. They're already answered in the affirmative. We just have to do our part. And I've said this before, and it's quoting Neville Goddard. Prayer is not so much about asking and getting; it's about preparing oneself to receive. And prayer is really to get into alignment with those things that we truly desire, and get clarity. And then once we have that, and when we have an understanding of how to self-govern and do the part that we can do, that we're literally 100% in control of, um, then things start to fall into place, and it becomes an incredible, wonderful, blissful life in which I believe God has intended for every single individual to live. And it's going to be unique and individual to every person. But there are things that we all need to come into alignment with. So, with that, let's jump into this. As beliefs change, so does behavior. And thinking is a behavior. In fact, the most important behavior there is. And I posted this in the Facebook group. Make no mistake about it. Thinking is a behavior. And when you change a person's behavior, or when you change a person's thinking, you change their behavior. And when you change their thinking dramatically, then you dramatically change the person. And what I mean by changing the person is who they are, what they're doing, and being. We're talking about real results in somebody's life. A lot of people think they understand what thinking is, and most people don't. I love how Bob Proctor expresses it and articulates it. He says, just walk down the street and watch people. You can tell that they're not really thinking. A lot of people are worried. A lot of people are jumping from one thing to the next based on what's in their environment. And it's just a busy mind. A busy mind doesn't mean that you're literally thinking, at least like on what's represented by the 2%. Another quote of Earl Nightingale, 95% of people think they think. 95% of people would rather die than think. 3% of people think they think, and 2% actually think. So that would go along the lines of, the whole 80-20 rule. And those who are willing to grow, they're meek, they're humble, they're submissive, they're looking to learn. A 2%er wouldn't care who they learn from. Like when I took up motocross, I didn't care if I was learning from a 6-year-old. If that 6-year-old could ride better than me, I'm going to ask him some questions and find out exactly, where am I lacking. A 2%er is going to ponder on things and not hurry through books. They're going to think about things more deeply. So thinking, hopefully that'll come across in this webinar, really what is demanded of us when we're really thinking. What does it really entail? What are the dynamics of thinking? But again, thinking is a behavior, and sometimes a lot of the times people need to be sent to time out, like put in the corner or sent to their room because their behavior is being terrible. As we think about this and as we internalize this, what we want to make the connection with is that what I think about expands. And when I come to understand that, I become very, very careful about what I think about. All right. So before I knew all of this, there was an aspect that I knew of it. We've all heard the cup half full or half empty. I always wanted to be a person who had the cup half full, but it was incomplete. I was missing some points or some pieces of the puzzle. So let's say personal development, you can rank that by a number on a scale of 1 to 10. 10 would be awesome. Like you got it. You figured it all out and you know everything. That's 10. Okay. There's no challenge that's too great for you, and you overcome things, and you go in everything that you do, you go from one magnificent win to the next. So let's just say I'm at a 3. This is the way I perceive life, the things that I've taken on as truth. Now a 10, they wouldn't have any error mixed with truth. They wouldn't have made any error a truth. Like, the world, well, with some of the stuff that's in the media right now, with the world being flat and it was really round, and Christopher Columbus, a lot of people they lived their lives believing that if you sailed out so far, you were going to fall off the edge. And so it controlled, or it limited them on their experience because it wasn't true. They weren't going to fall off an edge as they sailed off over the horizon. But they believed it was, but it wasn't true. So that can limit us. And so a 10 would not have any of that. A 10 would be somebody who has no error in any area. So that's the goal, right? We can all be working towards that. And as we work towards that and continually make that our pursuit, like a plant that's striving to touch the sun every day, it's reaching and growing and trying to reach that sun. It'll never reach the sun, but look how beautiful it becomes, and the shade that it offers, and the lodging for the birds, as it gets bigger and grows and expands. So if we have something like that, it really does give us joy and enthusiasm for life when we can look at life that way, not in a stressful way, not a stressed achiever type way, but in a relaxed, confident way. So here I am at a 3, and this is all internalizing, right? Personal development. We're talking about internalizing. Now, my goals in life and what I'm pursuing are going to be a perfect match. Like, I'll only go as far in that goal as I'm able to overcome the challenges and the truth that I understand about those challenges. Everything else is going to be incomplete. It's going to be erroneous, and I'm not going to move past a 3 in my goals. So it's as on the inside, so on the outside. So everything in our life on the outside is a mirror reflection of my personal development. Now, I want to get to a 10 in my goals, and so I work harder, I spend more hours, I take different classes, but I'm still missing the pieces of the puzzle. Those classes didn't fill in the incompleteness that I have in my personal development. So we have to be very careful about what we're studying and how we study and what we're expecting of ourselves as we go to the event, as we read the book. What's the level of expectation that I have for myself as I'm on this personal development journey? So here I am at a 3, and I'm very frustrated. Uh, when I come up against a level 4 and a level 5 problem here, they're going to beat me up. My intestinal fortitude, I'll keep trying and striving and trying to get past the challenges, but they just keep showing up. And eventually my intestinal fortitude, my motivation and inspiration wears off, and I quit. Or I keep doing it. Some people just keep going, and they stay at the 3, but they just keep going. My hat's off to somebody like that. But often I would quit, and then, and you can come up with all kinds of excuses as to why we quit. This isn't meant for me. God doesn't want me to do this. It's quite obvious that this isn't, my pathway, which it may be true and it may not be true. Okay. And in most cases, I would say people give up too early on their dreams and on their passions and that thing that they were supposed to do, because the level 4 and level 5 problem is just too great of a challenge. So what happened for me is I got introduced to an environment to where I started getting the right pieces of the puzzle, the information that I had never heard before. I probably heard it, but wasn't ready for it, or it wasn't explained to me in a way that I could comprehend it. And so, as I read the book, it captivated me. I read the Science of Getting Rich when it was handed to me. My friend and mentor and really my brother from another mother, Lenny Evans, he handed me this book and had me read one paragraph. In that one paragraph, I was hooked. It had me at that one paragraph. So I read the whole book that night. And I haven't put it down since. There's not a day that's gone by in almost 12 years now that in some way I haven't studied, thought about, or applied the things that I've learned in that book. So I continued, and I was getting the right personal development pieces. And let's say I got to a 6 on my personal development. So what started happening to my business goals, my life goals? It was a perfect match. I started moving forward. I started having bigger wins. I started having an increase in my income. I started having a greater enjoyment in the things that life has to offer. And Psalms really articulates what, when I say there hasn't been a day that hasn't gone by where I haven't thought about it. And this is serious. I'm not just saying that like to try and emphasize the importance. There's not a day that's gone by that I haven't thought about the laws. And in Psalms 119, it says, "Oh, how love I the law. It is my meditation all the day long. Through thy precepts I get understanding. Therefore I hate every false way." It's like Wayne Dyer was saying that, when you start to understand that what you think about how that expands is by understanding the definitions of the laws that govern our behavior when it comes to thinking. And when you start to understand them, you're very, very careful. It would be like walking near an edge. You would never take your attention off of the edge. You would just make sure that you're keeping yourself safe the whole time you're near that danger. And so as I go through each day, it's like I'm on the edge all the time. Now, what do I focus on? The law teaches me not to focus on the edge and falling off. The negative thing, that would be breaking the law of non-resistance. I want to focus on the objectives that I want to accomplish. But my point is it's like walking near a very high, dangerous edge with no railing. I'm constantly aware. And when I'm not, I try to figure out when I'm not and get back to where I'm aware. And that's a discipline. And it's a behavior, and it's a learned behavior, because remember, I didn't know how to do this before. And since I didn't know how to do it, it wasn't something that I was born with. I had to learn it. I had to develop it. Okay. So there's a very successful person in our business that I'm with, and her name's Lynn Hagedorn. And she says the same thing, you know, spend more time on yourself than you do on your business. So many people spend so much time trying to get past this level 4 and level 5 problem when they're not improving their level 3 personal development. And people will get confused with what is that. You know, a lot of people think it's the daily method of operations. There was a phrase that I had heard for it, and I see if I can come up with it real quick. The physical activities that they're doing. I can't remember. It explained it perfectly, but it's like they are the repetitious things we do habitually in a physical way. And so they strive to learn what are the successful people doing in their physical actions, and they work on those, and they neglect the internalizing. And so this is what Lynn's trying to get across. Look, I've spent a lot of time on myself. That moved my business forward faster than anything. And your business won't move forward until you do that. You can do it unconsciously, like you can pick up things as you learn things from people and start to apply the principle that they're teaching. If you weren't applying that principle before, then you'll move forward incrementally, but you'll hit a plateau. And you might even fall out of that and go back because you didn't quite understand why you moved forward. Because it changed your state, your perception. So, you know, what comes first, the chicken or the egg? You know, go out and get into action and then you have the success. Go out and have success and then be happy. No, it's the other way around. Be happy and grateful before you have the success. I'm not happy and grateful because I'm a millionaire, multimillionaire. I was happy and grateful. I'm a millionaire because I learned how to become happy and grateful. So thinking is a behavior, in fact, the most important behavior there is. And that goes back to the top graph, personal development. It's first cause, it's called state, first priority. It's what actually dictates your physical behavior. That's a little bit deeper. So now what I want to do is I want to play this little video. It's 4 minutes, and we're doing a challenge on this video. Watch it twice a day in the Mechanic to Millionaire Facebook group, once in the morning and then once before going to bed. But I just want to sink it home with some credible people who are basically saying the same thing.
What are you afraid of? And do you agree with that comment that you attract what you feel?
And you attract, not just what you feel, you attract what you feel, what you are, what you attract. What's on your mind? Yes,
It's like the law of physics. I don't know how anybody can disagree with that. Ask any physicist, they'll tell you it's true.
David Mamet wrote a line in the play Edmund, "Every fear hides a wish," which I think is close to that.
I still am very insecure in so many ways, but I wish I could give that gift to all my fans. You have the freedom to pull the superstar out of yourself that you were born to be. We are all born superstars.
When things are going good, you visualize these good things happen. You visualize more good things happen. That's easy. What's not easy to do is when things are going bad and you're visualizing the good stuff.
Champion Conor McGregor. Conor, you've been dreaming about this moment. You've been talking about this moment. Honestly, though, does it feel the way you thought it would?
Yeah, it does. It feels beautiful. I dreamt this so much, so clearly, so precisely, and so frequently that it has manifested itself into reality. And that's what I'm feeling right now. It's a dream come true.
I would visualize things coming to me that I wanted or whatever.
This was in like 1987, 85.
Yeah. And I had nothing at that time, so it was like, but it just made me feel better. It made me, at that time, all it really was for me was kind of making me feel better. I would drive home and think, oh, I do have these things. They're out there. I just don't have a hold of them yet, but they're out there.
Okay. So didn't you write yourself a check? I heard that you did. Is that true?
I wrote myself a check for $10 million for acting services rendered, and I gave myself 5 years, or 3 years maybe. And I dated it Thanksgiving 1995. And I put it in my wallet, and I kept it there, and it deteriorated and stuff. But But then just before Thanksgiving 1995, I found out that I was going to make $10 million on Ainsley. Dumb and Dumber.
Dumb and Dumber, yeah. So you visualize yourself like visualization works if you work hard.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's the thing. You can't just visualize and, go eat a sandwich. Right? Just decide what it's going to be, who you're going to be, how you're going to do it. Just decide. And then from that point, the universe is going to get out your way. It's water. It wants to move and go around stuff, So for me, I want to represent possibility. I want to represent the idea that you can make what you want.
There are many ways to get the things that we want for ourselves in our lives. But basically, it all begins with how we choose to think. As you think, so shall you be. 7 little words that I think are perhaps the most important things that we can learn and master in our lives. This whole proverb notion that I become what I think about all day long. And once you know that what you think about is what expands, you start getting real careful about what you think about. You don't allow your thoughts to be on anything that you don't want, or that you wouldn't want to have manifest or show up for you in your life.
Like attracts like. You have to understand, you are a magnet. Whatever you are, that's what you draw to you. If you're negative, you're going to draw negativity. You're positive, you draw positive. You're a kind person, more people are kind to you. So you're like a magnet, And you got to understand something about like attracts like. If you see it in your mind, you can hold it in your hand. This is so true. Joy and depression cannot reside in the same space. Laugh every chance you get. Just bust out laughing. Even if it ain't funny, just laugh.
I love that. So inspiring. It makes me just want to stop and start to visualize and do what they recommended there. Now let's get into some of like the definitions and a deeper understanding of exactly what they're talking about. So everything vibrates. Everything does. We know that when we look at colors. Colors are just different vibrations that are picked up through receptors that work through our eyes, and then they give a signal to the mind, and the mind decodes them, and voila, there it is. So everything vibrates, and our thoughts are the most powerful, potent form known to man. They travel faster than the speed of light. In fact, there's even thought in quantum physics that it's omnipresent. It doesn't even travel. It's everywhere, instantaneously. Kind of like an email. When you send an email out, somebody can open it up on different continents all at the same time. So that email is omnipresent. So even if that's hard for you to accept or understand, like if there's no brain cells that can really connect with that because you haven't really thought about it, just understand the principle of it here, and then test it and apply it. So let's say that where we're at and what we've learned, our paradigm, the way that we look at life and the things that we believe are true and the false things that we made true are all a part of our paradigm. Everybody has a paradigm that's mixed with truth and error. And unfortunately, in most cases, people's paradigms are limiting them. So if I am in pursuit of a goal, like with a business, and I've used the wording here for the business that I'm literally with. And so if you see like cycles, like lack of cycles, that's a compensation. So that's a representation of how much income I'm making on a daily basis. So lack of cycles, I could open my website and see, that there's not as many cycles as I would like. And so I'm depressed because there's a lack of cycles, instead of being grateful that there's cycles there, like that there's any cycles. Again, that goes back to I'm not happy and grateful because I'm a millionaire. I'm a millionaire because I'm happy and grateful because it affects my vibration. And the vibrations that we create in the different areas of our lives are like a magnet. They draw things back to us, like Denzel Washington was saying. What's on our mind is drawn back to us. So how do I look at my cycles or my commission checks or the amount of income that I make on a yearly basis? And this can be applied in any area. And it doesn't have to be money. It could be anything. It could be your clothes in your closet, in your drawers. It could be the sheets on your bed. It could be the carpet that you're walking on in your home. Maybe you don't want carpet. You would rather have wood flooring. But how are you looking at the carpet? Are you happy and grateful for it? And then, there's another thing that you need to do to the next level to attract and literally get the wood flooring, which we'll talk about later. But how do I look at the things? So right now, we're just going to go with the paradigm that doesn't serve us. There's not enough time. I'm way too busy. I'm fearful of what people are going to say or what they're going to think or how they're going to talk about me behind my back. I'm fearful of them rejecting me. I'm a victim. This always happens to me. I knew it. It costs too much. I can't afford it, so that means nobody else can afford it. I'm distracted. Okay, I'm not good enough. I'm not as good as Lynn Hagedorn. I'm not as good as Dave MacArthur. I'm not as good as, and you can think about that in sports. The kids that look at other kids as being better than them. I strike out all the time. I don't hit as good as Babe Ruth, So you look at, this is what somebody who is a 95%er or maybe even a 3%er might fall into this category, where they haven't changed this dialogue that's going on within themselves. A 2%er, and it'll bleed over into 3%er and maybe even 95%ers. They'll want to change their paradigm. In some areas they may, but a 2%er is like, they're going to attack this. This is like the meat and potatoes. This is my daily method of operation. I'm attacking this paradigm. I'm going to redesign it. I'm going to get myself to have a different dialogue that's going on within me. And at first it'll be forced, but if I keep that up long enough, it'll start to become natural and habitual. So we work on that. We 3x5 it. We get clearly defined on, changing the dialogue that's going on. What am I saying to myself? How am I seeing things? So instead of lack of cycles, I've got so many cycles and I'm so grateful. This is so awesome that I get to have this extra income that's coming in. I'm so grateful for the people that said yes. I'm so grateful for the customers, for the clients. I'm so grateful for the organization, and having gratitude for everything. I'm so grateful for this carpet. As I walk across it in my bare feet, it just feels great. I'm just grateful that it feels so good on my feet as I walk across the carpet. And it may be oil stained. It may have tracks from your dog or from your kids playing out in the dirt, but you ignore that. You pay no attention to that. You become grateful for the things. That's the cup half full, but most people don't really know what that means. Like, what's the responsibility I have in my thinking behavior to live a life where the cup is half full? I am good enough and I'm getting better. And I'm so grateful for the things that I'm learning. There is an abundance of everything. Mary Morrissey said, I could scoop as much as I want and there's still an infinite amount left for everybody else. There is an abundance. I'm so grateful for my knowledge of that, right? Even though that I may be, behind and in debt. I'm changing the vibration. What does that mean? It means it's going to start to change the circumstances. It's like winning the lottery. Things start to change, but it's not an instantaneous thing. It's more along the lines of the harvest. When you plant a seed, there's a gestation period where it seems like you're not seeing anything going on. And then all of a sudden that little plant bursts through the topsoil and you start to see it. So the person who knows isn't going to give up on this. I hear from many people, well, I'm not going to say many. I hear from people that I've been the best student of the Mechanics Millionaire. I've listened to all of the podcasts, and you know what? Things still aren't working out for me. And I just don't know what to do at this point. I'm giving up. I'm going to go rethink things. You would never say that if you understood the laws. You would never say that. You would recognize that I just need to work a little longer. I need to work a little more focused. I need to get a little more clear. I need to be a little more disciplined. I need to be a little more persistent. I need to be more regular with it. There's some aspect that you would recognize that is falling short within me, not the laws, if you truly understand them. So then you gain the new paradigm, and through repetition, the law of repetition, it's not that it got easier, it's that your ability to perform it improved. So now you're able to do it the longer you hang in there, right? So then eventually the old paradigm starts to fade away. Those 3 and level 4 problems don't show up anymore. Now you're living life on a higher plane of existence. You're experiencing less and less of, and eventually you don't even experience those problems anymore, those challenges. They just go away. You've written them out of your story. So the Kabbalion says that you're now obeying the laws of a higher plane, and so you rule on the lower plane. So this would be the lower plane down here and people who are here. And it says when you're living the laws up here, it's not that you're rising above the law, it's that you're submitting your life more to the laws and the definitions of what it means to behave in harmony with that law. Therefore, you're ruling on the lower plane where people are still having those problems. So, and you can interpret ruling, any way that you want, but it just means that your life is better than those who are breaking. Well, I wouldn't even say better. I would just say that maybe there's a greater sense of fulfillment. Your have, do, and be is on a greater level of it's on a higher plane. So I'll just leave it at that. One of the affirmations that I took early on was I have the unrestricted free use of time and money. Before I had it, I was so grateful. It was like Jim Carrey was saying, I'm driving around and it made me feel good. I knew they were out there and that they were mine. They just hadn't shown up yet. He said, for me, it made me feel good. All right. And feeling is the circuit. Feeling is the secret. It wasn't just saying it. It was feeling that in my heart in a grateful way. And my gratitude always went to God for me. So one of the things that I did is I wrote out a check to myself from my company, and it was that amount. That's a specific rank in our company, and that was a weekly amount, $13,522 a week. And when I was back making like $100 a week or $200 a week, I very quickly progressed to where I started working on getting to this particular rank. And so this became one of my things that I focused on. Like Jim Carrey, he said he wrote the $10 million check to himself for acting services rendered. So I knew what this check meant for me. It wasn't that I'm just going to go eat a sandwich and wait for it to show up. I knew specific actions that I needed to take. Now this time though, as I was creating this dialogue that's up here on the higher plane, the right people started showing up. Where in the past, as I worked towards my goals, the right people never showed up to get me to where I wanted to be. And now I've surpassed this now. So on a weekly basis. So there's a direct correlation. It was so clear to me that my change in behavior with my thinking had everything to do with what I needed with the missing pieces. Now I was already a hard worker. I was already somebody who is going to put quality effort into my work. Vince Lombardi is quoted as saying, the quality of a person's life is in direct proportion to their commitment to excellence. So I had developed a work ethic that was committed to excellence, no matter what it was, whether it was vacuuming, raking, gardening, fixing cars, mopping up the floor at the shop, whatever it was. I always did it with a sense of excellence. So that piece was already there. What I was missing is the piece that most people are missing, and that's the internal dialogue and how to implement that. So let me use the law of polarization. You would want to use the law of polarization to keep you up here. There's a pendulum swing. It's called the law of rhythm. And the people that have these quantum leaps in their life, they're using the law of polarization to overcome the law of rhythm. You don't destroy the law of rhythm. Nobody could destroy a law, but I can live a higher law that trumps that law. And the law of polarization is the law that's going to literally produce the results that you're wanting. If you don't nail the law of polarization, you'll never truly experience these things. So let's go over what the law of polarization is. There's two polar opposites. So there's hot and cold. Where does hot change to cold? Like, where's the line of demarcation? There really is no line of demarcation. It's a gradient. And so The things that start to change in our lives are very gradient, very subtle. And if you don't stay at it, then you'll go back and your faith will become weak, and then your actions will stop. So we need to understand these things on an intellectual level and internalize them so that we don't give up, so that we understand the process and that it takes some time to develop and create the disciplines that become habits. So there's a lower plane and there's a higher plane. And it would be just like those vibration lines that I just showed you. And we want to work towards the higher plane, which is going to help us to become closer to a 10, progressively moving towards our worthy ideals. They're all on the higher plane. So it's about putting our lives in harmony with law. So many people are like dejected and have a bad attitude towards commandments. Commandments are your friend. Okay, everything is a commandment. It depends on how you look at it. And there's way more than 10 commandments. I don't know. I'm still searching to try and find more commandments. So here I am. I'm existing at life on a lower plane. Remember, I was as far away from my goals and dreams as I could possibly be. And I didn't see any way of overcoming that at this point. And so I was praying for God to take my life. I think I learned everything I needed to learn. I've been through enough pain. I just was unbalanced. I wasn't thinking right. I lost my health and all of that. So that was my paradigm. Now, there are examples for us, and we can utilize examples of what life can be like. Like Will Smith said, I want to be a representation or an example of the possibilities. I want to show people that whatever it is you want and desire, you can achieve that. So perception, I can see the difference between where I am and where I'd like to be based on the examples that are out there. And a lot of times it's going to come from examples. There will be few instances where geniuses come up with something that never existed, like Steve Jobs and the Walkman, and our iPods, things like that. Okay, so perception, but in most cases, there's going to be somebody who's an example. Reasoning is and these are mental faculties that we have and only we have alone, as being, in my faith and my belief, that we are literally the offspring of God. We have these divine characteristics, and Bob Proctor says, because of our divine origin, I call them our divine birthright. So these are no other living creature or thing has these mental faculties: perception, reasoning. So what I know I need to do and the actions I must take, I can start to reason things out. So in the business goals, these mental faculties, we're going to start to use these mental faculties in a way that now we're starting to move and migrate towards becoming a 2% thinker, and watch what happens with our goals. So we start to realize that first cause, that's a 2%er. I'm taking 100% responsibility for the things that are showing up in my life. I'm not a victim. Things aren't lucky. Things work by law, and they're exact, and they're in proportion to my ability to get in harmony with those laws. So reasoning. Now, the law of assumption. This is what Neville Goddard teaches: assuming the thing as though it's already been accomplished. This is the key. Like Jim Carrey was saying, he wrote himself out a $10 million check for acting services rendered. He didn't say, well, this is going to happen someday when I find the right director and I happen to get lucky at some audition that I do. I'm just going to be the face that they're looking for. No, he already saw himself as receiving that check, and the movie has already been done. Maybe he's received an Academy Award or an Oscar or whatever. Maybe he sees himself walking the red carpet. It's already been accomplished. You have to write it out that way. So you want to get a clearly defined piece of art, right? You want to have your own book, your own story that you've written of what does it look like now that it's already assumed. So this is what kickstarts the law of vibration and the law of attraction. It starts to change your vibration. Remember, that made him feel good. When you're feeling good, you know that you're nailing it, because feeling is vibration. Creates a vibration within us, which is decoded by the senses as a feeling, an emotion. But what it's really doing is it's acting like that magnet. So then memory comes into play here. So imagination is a big one. like Will Smith said in another interview, that he says to have the kind of success I've had, you have to be delusional. You have to be very delusional, meaning seeing yourself with so much success when you're a nobody, quote unquote, right? So you use your imagination. You go to the imagination workshop and you start to create this story, this make-believe story about you. But then your job is to not look at it as make-believe, but to see it as being a reality. And that's the key. And a lot of people don't feel comfortable doing that. And so that becomes the part where they break the law. They break the law of assumption because they're not willing to play at that level. So unlimited possibilities with the imagination, making arrangements of things as they already exist or something new. So I can use some examples from I can use some of the pieces from the person who's being the example, but I can also make some of my own. There's no rules on this when you use your imagination, or there's no boundaries. You can put it together however you want. So what happens is, now if you look at the thermometer, I'm doing this, and it's not filled in with red because I'm imagining it. It's not really true in my reality yet. Like the UFC fighter, he was saying, yeah, I've dreamed this so many times, so deeply, and I felt it. Now it actually happened. It feels the way it did as I was imagining it. He says, does it feel like you thought it would? And he was like, yeah, it feels exactly the same as I thought it would, because he worked so much. Now, what's going to happen? Watch the thermometer. Your paradigm is going to say, oh, I'll come back to it. So thinking from the goal, or thinking from the goal as an already accomplished fact. So here you are in your reality, bills in you're in debt, you're not having successful people show up in your business, or customers, or whatever the case might be, your relationships. But you start to write this out as though they already are. So what you do is you go over to and you want to write this out in a clearly defined way, a very precise way. That's what he said. The UFC fighter said, I thought it out so precisely. You're blueprinting it, right? A blueprint has to be so precise for the builders. But this is your blueprint and you're the builder. So you go to your imagination workshop. You got to do it every day. He said, I did it so often that it manifested itself. So where you're at, you're going over here as though the goal is already accomplished. That's the law of assumption. So what's going to happen when you do that is, in the beginning, it's going to be forced. And your reality, which, your reality for right now, everything always changes. But for right now, your reality says, no, you're not. And you say, yes, I am. I am. And you pull out your 3x5 card and you force yourself to read it day in and day out. And you read it so much that all you have to do is touch the cards now and you know what it says. And it brings it right to your mind. But your mind, the reality is saying, no, it's not. Or your friends are saying, no, it's not. Or your spouse, or your parents, or your kids, or your friends, your circle of influence are saying, no, you're not. And you're like, oh yeah, I'm not. And then you're like, you're going to overcome that law of rhythm. There's going to be people and the environment that try to keep you at the lower plane in the law of rhythm, where you swing back and forth. The swing to the left equals the swing to the right. Okay. Now, with the law of polarization, I can say, with my willpower, consciously hold fast to that which one consciously chooses. This is a 2%er. Now, a 2%er's thinking. They're really thinking. They're going to overcome the law of rhythm. They're going to overcome their environment. They're going to have their 3x5 cards literally written out very precisely because they're a thinker. And they're going to pull that paradigm and create a new habit and overcome the paradigm that's being suggested to them right now that isn't serving them. And so they polarize it and they say, yes, I am. And they get to a point where they bought in hook, line, and sinker, and it feels good, and they're doing that, and they're feeling that more than they're not. The law of rhythm is now overcome. And what starts to happen? Once you've overcome the law of rhythm and you maintain that, and you're consistent with it, it has to manifest, just like it did for the UFC fighter, just like it did for Jim Carrey, just like it did for me. So intuition is the feeling inside that creates an awareness of being in harmony or out of harmony with the nature of your being. So intuition, like, you don't want to lean your ladder against the wrong wall and implement these laws. you'll accomplish something that you're like, whoa, when you get to the top of the ladder, you're like, oh my gosh, this is not how I wanted things to be. And so intuition will help guide you. It will be that spirit within you, that sixth sense that's communicating to you. Don't ignore it. If you have feelings that you absolutely know and they're not going away, I'm not talking about fear. I'm talking about, hey, I'm pursuing something that I shouldn't be pursuing. And I'm implementing the laws and it's actually starting to happen. And it's going to be to my destruction because I'm going in a direction that isn't in harmony with where I ultimately want to be in my environment. So let's say you pursue a course or a career that isn't really the one you know within inside you that this isn't what I should be pursuing, but you do it anyways. You'll get to the top if you implement the laws, and then you'll find that you leaned your ladder against the wrong wall. You hear about this so often when people go to med school, and then all of a sudden they find out, I didn't want to be a doctor at all. They leaned their ladder against the wrong wall for like 7-8 years. And now that they're there, they're like, oh, this is not what I want to do. And you hear that so often. People are like on their last year of they're getting their degree and they totally switch it and they go and become an artist or something, right? So pay attention to that intuition as well. It will always keep you safe. So then the old paradigm goes away and the new paradigm's developed. Now, once you get there, you got to say, what's next? What's next? You could go into old habits. Old habits are hard to die. They will die, but if you don't say what's next and keep driving yourself forward, or on a level that's keeping you where you're at, or further, I always say, what's next, drive myself further, trying to reach the sun. Then you'll stay away from that old paradigm. It won't come back. And you'll be happy, and other people will be happy, and you'll be a representation of what life can be. To me, this is another reason why I feel a sense of responsibility now that I know to live life at a higher level for myself and push myself on a daily basis to be motivated, inspired. On a big percentage of that is so that I can be that representation of the possibilities that other people will recognize as within themselves. And that paradigm moves, you guys, and you can go as far as you want, and you can go as quickly as you want. It depends on your focus and your discipline. So let me just share with you some examples of what I did and how the business showed up for me that did, and how it answered me clearly defining what I wanted out of my life. And here's some pictures of where I was unhealthy. I wasn't living in the house that I wanted to live in. I couldn't afford to replace the broken window on the front of that house. For 6 years, that window right there that you see on the front of this house was broken. It shattered. I wasn't driving the car that I wanted for me and my family. It actually smoked out the back. That's it. It's an 89 Dodge Caravan with wood paneling, and it smoked out the back because it was too laborious to fix that problem. I'd had to tear the engine apart. Couldn't afford a new car. I was too tired and worn out after working on other cars and delivering newspapers every morning to fix my own car. Just kept it so that it would run. So I was doing a lot of things that I didn't want. There were a lot of things that I felt like I had to do. And I was in survival mode. Life was not enthusiastic. I had lost my health. So even with my health, it had deteriorated. And that was something that I look back now, it was, I wasn't a victim. I wasn't a victim of society. I wasn't a victim of the food industry. I was a victim of my own self and the way I was thinking, my thinking behavior. I totally deserved a timeout. So as I started to learn these laws so let me go. So what happened is, let me see what's next here. Yeah, what happened is before being introduced to really the laws on the level that I was, when really things started to change at a very rapid pace, I was introduced to dreaming. Me and my wife went to a dream workshop and learned how to write out our dreams according to the law of assumption. I didn't know that, and it wasn't even called a law then. We just went to this dream workshop, and they said, this is how you do it. And so I went to this workshop. They gave us different categories in our lives where we could choose, and there was a whole bunch of areas, all of them important, some of them hobbies and things like that. But I picked different areas, and they gave us little sentences or paragraphs to start us off in the right direction. And they said, what you want to do is write this out and write it out, your dreams and goals, as though they're already accomplished. See yourself living in your goal and your dream. And so I spent 3 days doing that. And then went home and took some pictures. They said, now go home and find some pictures, find them in magazines, go out and take pictures, send them back to us, and we'll put those with what you wrote out for those different categories, and we'll put them into a book for you. So I want to go through with you the things that I didn't see any way that I was going to accomplish them. I had no idea. I was as far away from these things becoming a reality as they could possibly be, but I played at 100%. I had no fear. At this point, the physical and financial pain was so great that I just went ahead and played along. I tried everything else. Let's see if this works. So Neville Goddard, I learned, years after doing that, the most remarkable feature of man's future is its flexibility. A change of concept of self automatically alters his future. So the book was the change of the concept of myself. Now, it doesn't have to be a book, and what I promote is the 3x5 cards, your vision board. You can do it at 8.5 by 11. You can do it on your iPad. There's a lot of apps there now where you can put pictures. But I like writing it out on a 3x5 card and then putting pictures on the back to alter my future. So I'm changing the concept of myself. I don't need permission from anybody. I don't need to go ask other people what they think about my new future that I've written for myself. Many people make that mistake. Many people write down for themselves what they think other people think they should be writing down. All of us have our purpose, like the singer said in that little video that I showed. I can't remember her name now. She said, my wish is, for all my fans, is that there's a superstar within you. And many people suppress that. I didn't have that problem. I went ahead and I played at 100%, and I'm going for it. I'm going for the Grand Slam. I'm going for the Super Bowl victory. I'm going to write down the new concept of myself. So what I started to do as I connected with my why in each of these areas, the things that they were my why. Why do I want to connect with these different categories of these areas on this level? And I wrote it out. I got a clearly defined and definite, precise goal. And it grew. I didn't nail it the first time. Remember, we took 3 days to do this. I even changed it a little bit when I got home. It's been evolving ever since. So find something you would die for and then live for it. At that time, the purpose for me and connecting with all these areas in my life was for my family. All right. So the first thing was my health. I had to be there. I had to be able to show up. I had to be able to be firing on all cylinders to be able to accomplish the things that I wanted to accomplish. And I wasn't. I could fall asleep in a customer's car while I'm fixing it. It was that bad. I was so far away from the billboard of health. My parts department manager, as I walked in to get a part to repair a car, he came running out of his office when he saw me. He said, "Hey, I had a dream about you last night, that your kidneys failed. You went into the emergency room and you died." And I'm just like, thanks. What do I say to that? I just kind of laughed it off, like, ha, that's funny. Yeah, but it was the writing was on the wall. I just want you guys to get the image of, I was not the image of health and fitness. In spite of my best efforts, riding my bike to work, it was 100 miles every 5 days, working out, trying to eat right. It wasn't working. I was obese. And so I took this picture with me holding these little 5-pound dumbbells, and it was a representation of me being fit. And I wrote down things that I remembered what it was like to be fit. When I was in high school, I wrestled, I played football, I was baseball, I took second place in wrestling in California as a junior in high school. So I had connected with what it felt like every time I read that book to be in top shape. Okay. Now I was as far away from that as I could be. I had already tried doing everything I knew to do, but I went ahead and wrote it out as though it was already accomplished. Another thing was, here we were living in a home that we didn't want to live in, way too small for us, like 1,400 square feet. And there was 5 kids, and our foster daughter, you can see Jessica there, the oldest one. We had foster kids with special needs that would live with us, and I'm delivering newspapers and still can't even get by. And so here's our home that we're living in, and we're grateful for our home. And that cup half full, but it wasn't the home that we wanted to live in. So I would drive on test drives in the car while I was working on cars at the dealership, and I drove past this house. And so when it came to the house and how I had written it out, I said, okay, we're going to go take a picture in front of this house that I just love. It's like the dream house. So what we'll do is we'll drive in front of it, and we'll all hop out of the car and we'll take a picture really quick. And the kids are like, no, Dad, we can't do that. How embarrassing. They'll get mad at us. You need to go and knock on the door and ask them first. I'm like, no. We'll just do it so quick. Nobody will even see us. So you can see my daughter, Mackenzie. She's like kind of hiding, and look at Ariel. She's like, this is really crazy. This is creepy. But look at the younger kids. They're like owning it, right? That's how kids are. They just own it. And Carrie being so supportive, she's just owning it. Sometimes we get in the way of ourselves. But so I wrote that down, what it was like to live in that house. My kids having their own room, each one of them having their own room, the granite countertops in the kitchen, the wood flooring, having an awesome backyard. I mean, just room for everybody, right? And okay, so that was something that went in my book. And I read this every morning, every night out loud. Time flexibility. I had my wife take a picture of me with golf clubs walking out the door of our home. And this was when we were living in the 1,400 square foot home. And what this represented to me was I can go golfing whenever I want. And golfing to me was something that, wealthy people did, and they could do it during the day because they had so much money. They didn't have to worry about working all day long. And so I had written down what time flexibility meant to me and how I could do what I want, when I wanted, for as long as I want, and still be able to maintain the lifestyle that we wanted, live in the house that we want to live in, go on the vacations we want to live in. How's that going to happen, you guys? I had no idea. I'm delivering newspapers at 4:30 every morning, working on cars all day at work. And then I'm going home and working on cars in the driveway. And a lot of times with a drop light because it got dark outside because I was working late into the night. Time flexibility, like how's that going to happen? Right. But I wrote it down and I bought into it. I was like the UFC fighter. I did it so many times, so persistently, so precisely that I got the feeling of it. It made me feel good, like Jim Carrey said. Another one was I wanted to make an impact in people's lives. And so I had written out what that looked like. What would it feel like? How would I make an impact on people? And so we went down to the library. I said, let's go to the library. And they have those little podiums in the rooms sometimes. Like I've been in libraries where they have these podiums in them. Let's go look and peek in some of the rooms. So we're opening these doors where the lights are completely turned off and the doors were unlocked. I'm like, yes. And I peeked in and we saw a room where the lights were off, but there was a podium up there. So I flipped the lights on. My wife, I go behind the podium. I raise my hand up and I say, okay, snap the picture now. And she took the picture. There was nobody in the room. It was all empty seats. But when I read that page in my book, that could be a 3x5 card. It could be a vision board. But it was in my book. It was a couple pages in there. And I felt what it was like to make an impact from sharing and imparting information with people, right? So that was another, how's that going to happen? What am I going to teach? How to, fold newspapers? I didn't know, but in here, I was dreaming. I was delusional. I was making a difference in people's lives with very valuable information. So I had my old paradigm and my new paradigm in my book. Now it was just a matter of me doing the work, like the UFC fighter, like Jim Carrey, like I was being taught to do. What was my behavior? How did I need to adjust my thinking? How did I need to assume the wish fulfilled? So I did all of that. And so go past that, things started changing very quickly. And so I want to share with you, fast forward, my life is a dream life now. I remember hearing Jack Canfield, him saying he lives a dream life now. His life is like a dream. And that's how my life is. It's like Christmas every day. Every day is like bliss. And it really is. And I get to do what I want, when I want, for as long as I want, and no financial repercussions. We're living in our dream home. We're driving our dream cars. We're taking our dream vacations. I'm making the impact, the dream impact that I always wanted to make. And I have the health that I passed in every area. It's not only met it, it passed it up. Like I could almost say infinitely more. It's more than passed it. Like it's just incredible, right? Because once I figured it out, Wallace Wattles calls it a certain scientific way to behave with your thinking, certain and scientific way of thinking. I just did it. I just said, what's next? If it did it with this, will it do it with that? And it did. And so I just kept saying, what's next? What's next? And writing it out precisely. So with the health goal, now remember, I wrote this book in 2005, and there's a gestation period. It's the period from when I start doing it to when it actually starts to show up. And there's no exact science. Like Bob Proctor says, we know it takes 90 to 120 days for a carrot. You plant a carrot seed, and in 90 to 120 days you'll be eating carrots. You don't really know with the universal laws, and because there's so many different dynamics that are at play. Am I really getting the feeling as I'm doing it? Am I doing it consistently? Or one day I'm off and the law of rhythm is pulling me down for 3 days. And then I get inspired and I do it for a day and a half. And then the law of rhythm pulls me down for 8 days. Maybe it takes me out for 6 months. And then I start doing it again. There's all these different variables that are unknown that come into play. So the law of gestation is it's an unknown factor. Some things you could do very quickly. Some things may take longer because of the law of rhythm. So polarizing it though, but if you're really polarizing it and you start nailing it, I would say 30, 60, 90 days, you'll start to see the changes. And, they pretty consistently start to show up when you do it on the level that you need to do it every day, 30, 60, 90 days. So in April 2005, I wrote this book. I started reading it. 5 months later, the health company, the nutritional products showed up. And the way that they showed up was at an expo. You got to be very careful and be very watchful, be very aware, because things will show up and you might think, nah, that's not it. Or not even know, you just pass it by. And so me and my wife were at an expo, and she dragged me in front of this booth, this Isagenix booth that was being represented there. And I said no. I threw the guy's card away. But my wife entered a drawing and we won some products. That's how I got on them. And there was no denying me, getting me to the vehicle that was going to be the solutions that was going to match the new paradigm. Now, remember, I'm thinking in different areas of my life. I'm doing this. I'm polarizing it in a lot of different areas in my life, and I'm nailing it. I'm getting the feeling, and I'm precise with it. It wasn't just one thing. My health. It was my time freedom. It was where we lived. It was my wealth. There was all of these different things, and so this vehicle couldn't be denied, because as you'll see, for me, the opportunity that showed up in this vehicle for helping introduce me to my health was the answer in all the areas of my life. Now, so you got to be very careful. You got to be watchful, and take advantage of the opportunities that come along. And if you're not quite sure, just step into it and say, okay, I'm going to say yes to this, and then see where that takes you. Your intuition will guide you from there on. All right, so August 2005, that's 5 months later. So for 5 months, I was thinking that it might be something else. It was what I was already engaged in. Who knows what I was thinking back then, as far as what I was pursuing versus what was in my reality versus what I was polarizing and what showed up. Right? It could be with the company you're already with. It could, but you'll find out. Okay. So 2005, what happened with my health? Very quickly, I got back to my high school health. I literally got back to my high school physiology, my weight, the way I looked. It just all happened in 4.5 months after Isagenix had showed up. So from here, that's August 2005. This is 4.5 months later. And so I was literally back to what I had described in my book. I got back to my senior and high school wrestling weight. Now I'm back to my junior and high school wrestling weight because of what's next, saying what's next. So here it is 11 years later, back to my junior and high school wrestling. In fact, I'd say I'm in better shape than I was as a junior in high school. So there's that one. Check. The home we wanted to live in. Check. It showed up 9 months after writing the book. Well, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 months after writing the book, we moved into our dream home. 14 months. And get this, guys, that house was a brand new house that was built on a lot that was vacant in a neighborhood that had been there for 50 years. And that house is in the neighborhood that other house was that we took the picture in. It was in the same neighborhood. Coincidence, you guys? That lot being there, and it had 7 rooms in it, 7 bedrooms. Like, how does that happen? I mean, in a neighborhood where homes aren't built it's just crazy, right? And it exactly matched the description. It had the granite countertops. All my kids got their own room. Just everything about it was exactly what I had written out in the book. And it's in the same neighborhood. I mean, come on. Coincidence? No. In the movie The Secret, John Assaraf actually bought the house that was on his vision board, and his vision board got tucked away as he was moving from state to state, as he was selling his business, and millions of dollars making. And he ended up buying a house. He unboxed his vision board box, and he had moved into the exact house in San Diego, I think it was. It was the exact same house that was on his vision board, not one like it. It was the house, and he didn't even know when he bought it. That's when they started playing the Twilight Zone music. Okay. We drive the cars we want to drive now. I remember seeing, this is my Lexus right here. And I remember seeing those when I was driving a car that wasn't my dream car. And I remember seeing it on the road, and I really fell in love with that style of car. And boom, one day driving by the dealership, it was like a Dodge dealership. They had this as a used car that was for sale there. And the way it got there was no coincidence. I mean, it stuck out like a sore thumb at that dealership. And man, it was the answer. It just, everything happened. I got into the car and drove away in it. Time flexibility. Remember, I'm throwing newspapers. I'm working on cars till 9:30, 10 o'clock at night. How's that going to happen? Well, the universe knew how it was going to happen. God's, principle of cause and effect was so perfectly woven into the universe and in everything and everyone that it showed up. The time I get to do what I want, when I want, for as long as I want, because of the same company that got me my health, the same company that got me my wealth. It created passive residual income for me. I mean, when you really do this, God knows how to answer your prayer more effectively, more better, greater than we can even imagine. We just get in the way. I wasn't getting in the way this time. I was doing my part, and I wasn't putting limitations on it. Remember, I'm going for the Super Bowl win. I'm going for the Grand Slam. And so it was answered perfectly. I got the residual income. I got the passive income. I've got a lot of income. I got my health back, right? So what about the impact that I want to make in people's lives? I started doing presentations, and I got better. The first presentation was so bad, if I wasn't doing it, I would have walked out. Literally, Lenny, who was there and my mentor, he saved me. He came up at the right time in the presentation and said, let's hear it for Dave, right in the middle of the presentation, because I needed help. Like, I was like sinking fast. And so that's how bad I was in the first presentation. But I had this desire, and I continued to. So the vehicle showed up where I was able to start presenting, but I still needed to improve my skills on it. And as I visualized it, the skills came, and the right ideas came to my mind, the right body language, the right intonation, the right mentors showed up to help me become a great presenter. And at this point now, I was asked by our company to open up their biggest event of the year. There was like 14,000 people there. I was the keynote speaker to start off the event, a 3-day event. I mean, really? Come on, I want to show you, like Will Smith, the possibilities. I want to be an example of the possibilities for everybody. Come on, I was standing in a library room, in an empty room that was, was dark before we walked into it, taking a picture. Guys, it's a representation of the possibilities. Now, I had to do the work. It's like Jim Carrey said, you don't just, do the affirmations and assume the wish fulfilled and then go eat a sandwich. I practiced presenting in my room at first I couldn't do it in front of the mirror. I was too embarrassed. I was too gun shy to practice presenting in front of a mirror. I worked up to where I could be okay with me practicing in front of a mirror. But if anybody heard me, I stopped. I'd shut all the doors. I'd go into the closet and practice. But eventually I got to where, I didn't care if people heard me as I practiced. And it evolved and it got better, right? And visualization was a key part of that. It got me to act. The visualization is what got me to do the presentation in the closet, what got me to do it in front of the mirror, because I was changing the concept of myself, and it was dictating my actions. My state was dictating my action. I was working on first cause. I was working on my state. And it got me to develop these skills. The personal impact, speaking in front of 14,000 people, that was great. But I love the personal impact that I get to make when I travel and I do a meeting in front of 10 people, 3 people, 25 people. That's where the rubber meets the road. That's what I get to do every day. And it's not work for me. I'm doing it right now. It's why I travel so much. People say, you work so hard. That's why you're successful. No, I'm doing what I love. I'm passionate about it. It's not work to me. It's my dream to be able to go and do this. The fact that it builds my business, God matched me up with the perfect opportunity to be able to go ahead and create that dream life that I had in my book. It's not work for me. So then, when I first got started in the company, there were millionaires in the company, and they were an example of what life could be. And so I had the tenacity, I had the gall to put my picture on the front of the magazine. I photoshopped it there when I was making, I don't know, like maybe $500 a month. I don't remember exactly when I put that on there, but it was very early on. And so I put on that magazine that Dave MacArthur, Mechanic to Millionaire, in record time. And I put Mechanic to Millionaire. That's how they introduced me as I came on the stage, Mechanic to Millionaire. I wrote that long before it was even a reality. And I imagined what it would be like. And I printed those out. I had them on my wall. I had them in the bathroom. I had them in my car. I carried it in my pocket, folded up, an 8.5 by 11, and what that was like. And so remember, a change of concept of self automatically alters the future. So I was doing the work. I wasn't just eating a sandwich, but so many people do the work and they never get the results. Remember, that would be like where the level 4 and level 5 problems come in, because they're creating them internally. I wasn't creating them anymore. And so this literally became a reality. They did a 2-page spread on me in the company's magazine, Mechanic to Millionaire. Pretty amazing, right? A representation of the possibilities. So assuming the wish fulfilled is like one of the biggest pieces of the puzzle that I was missing. Like, because when I would hit my challenges, I started focusing on the obstacles rather than the objective. What the law of assumption taught me was, no, stay focused on the goal as already accomplished. Ignore those obstacles. Don't give life to them. Quit focusing on them. And when they come up, just stick your fingers in your ear and say, la, 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 and close your eyes, and I don't see you. And what do I see? I see this over here, the objective, as though it's already accomplished. Now, there are challenges that come up and issues that need to be addressed. But once I can address them, whatever I can do about them in that moment, do it, take care of it, and then get back to assuming the wish fulfilled. Don't worry about it. Don't fret about it. Don't agonize over it. Just get it out of your mind and get back to assuming the wish fulfilled. That's the discipline. Prayer is not so much about asking. It's about you staying over there and believing that it's already accomplished. I think there's a scripture that says that in Matthew. Before you pray, believe that you receive. Not just once, not just while you're saying your prayer, but consistently, like the UFC fighter. I did it so persistently and so precisely that I had already achieved it. It was there. It was already mine. So yeah, this feels exactly the same now that it is. Perfect faith. That's faith. See, people think that this takes God out of it. No, it brings God into it. When you understand that these laws are God's laws, that's perfect faith. And you start to grow a greater relationship with your God. You start to grow a greater appreciation and gratitude and see that how he is in everything. Turn over the rock, there he is. Split the log, there he is. Turn the corner, there he is. It's an amazing way to live. God is the one who will create the divine connections for you to move forward. That's the bigger how. You take care of the little how. The little h, that's the things that you know to be doing. Don't eat the sandwich, get into action. As you get into action, God will take care of the bigger how. How is that going to happen? I don't know. I just know it's going to happen. I know it's out there for me. And as I do what I need to do, God will create the divine connections for me. There it is. Just showed up. Now I act on it. And it was the right thing. So let me just finish with this again, because this is so powerful. And then I've got a couple other slides and we're done. This is so powerful based on what we just learned, right?
What are you afraid of? And do you agree with that comment that you attract what you fear?
And you attract, not just what you fear, you attract what you feel, what you are, what you
attract. What's on your mind? Yeah, it's like the law of physics. I don't know how anybody can disagree with that. Ask any physicist, they'll tell you it's true.
David Mamet wrote a line in the play Edmund, "Every fear hides a wish," which I think is close to that.
I still am very insecure in so many ways, but I wish I could give that gift to all my fans. You have the freedom to pull the superstar out of yourself that you were born to be. We are all born superstars.
When things are going good and you visualize these good things happening, you visualize more good things happening, that's easy. What's not easy to do is when things are going bad and you're visualizing the good stuff.
Champion Conor McGregor. Conor, you've been dreaming about this moment. You've been talking about this moment. Honestly, though, does it feel the way you thought it would?
Yeah, it does. It feels beautiful. I dreamt this so much, so clearly, so precisely, and so frequently that it has manifested itself into reality. And that's what that's what I'm feeling right now. It's a dream come true.
I would visualize things coming to me that I wanted or whatever.
This was in like 1987, 85.
Yeah. And I
you,
had nothing at that time, so it was like, but it just made me feel better. It made me, at that time, all it really was for me was kind of making me feel better. I would drive home and think, well, I do have these things. They're out there. I just don't have a hold of them yet, but they're out there.
Okay. So didn't you write yourself a check? I heard that you did. Is that
I
true?
wrote myself a check for $10 million for acting services rendered, and I gave myself 5 years, or 3 years maybe. And I dated it Thanksgiving 1995. And I put it in my wallet, and I kept it there, and it deteriorated and stuff. But then just before Thanksgiving 1995, I found out that I was going to make $10 million on, I think, Dumb and Dumber.
Dumb and Dumber, yeah. So you visualize yourself. Visualization works if you work hard.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's the thing. You can't just visualize and then, go eat a sandwich.
Right? You just decide what it's going to be, who you're going to be, how you're going to do it. Just decide. And then from that point, the universe is going to get out your way. It's water. It wants to move and go around stuff, So for me, I want to represent possibility. I want to represent the idea that you really can make what you want. There are many ways to get the things that we want for ourselves in our lives. But basically, it all begins with how we choose to think. As you think, so shall you be. 7 little words that I think are perhaps the most important things that we can learn and master in our lives. This whole proverb notion that I become what I think about all day long. And once you know that what you think about is what expands, you start getting real careful about what you think about. You don't allow your thoughts to be on anything that you don't want, or that you wouldn't want to have manifest or show up for you in your life. Like attracts like. You have to understand, you are a magnet. Whatever you are, that's what you draw to you. If you're negative, you're going to draw negativity. You're positive, you draw positive. You're a kind person, more people are kind to you. So you're like a magnet, and you got to understand something about like attracts like. If you see it in your mind, you can hold it in your hand. This is so true. Joy and depression cannot reside in the same space. Laugh every chance you get. Just bust out laughing, even if it ain't funny. Just laugh.
Is that awesome? I love it. So I just want to finish up with the practical application of this. And just reiterating what Jim Carrey said, you can't just figure out what it is you want, write it down, and then go eat a sandwich, right? You've got to do the work. Vision without work is just a dream. So you could have the 3x5 cards, you could have the vision boards, but if you're not doing the work, and there's different dynamics of doing the work with your thinking behavior, doing the work with your craft, the thing that you're pursuing, getting out there and becoming vulnerable in that work. Like when I did the presentation and then, Lenny came up and saved me. I didn't go south with that. I didn't say, oh, I'm not a good presenter, I'll never be able to do this. I knew that I could do it. I knew it. And when you understand the laws, there isn't anything that you become afraid of, because your dependability is not in yourself, it's in the laws, it's in God and his, the way that, he's designed things for us to be able to pursue something and then literally achieve it. To be able to give you the ability to dream about something and then never be able to achieve it, that would be a nightmare, right? And God wouldn't do that to us. Everything that you desire and want and have and should have and can have is already yours. You just got to step into it. And work without a vision is a nightmare. Well, that's where I was at. When I was at the level 3 on my personal development, and no matter how hard I worked, I stayed at a level 3. I might have inched forward a little bit, but then I went right back to the 3. So you've got to do the mental, the behavior, work on the behavior of thinking, right? So the practical application, you want to start building your dream boards, your vision boards. You can do them on your electronic applications. I would also recommend not doing them just on an electronic application. I would recommend where you're writing things down on 3x5 cards, where you're cutting and pasting things and taping them on. I show in the Mechanics Millionaire that how to build your vision board out. It's a video that I did in FaceTime. It's in the Mechanics Millionaire group. It has close to 10,000 views on it now and been shared, I think, over 100 times. I show the details of how to do that, how to write the law of compensation into it so that you're giving in order to receive. 3x5 cards, I love them. I have them right here. I just rewrote some things in a more precise way on my 3x5 card like 2 days ago. So you want to get bullet points. You want to have triggers, things that put you into that state of feeling, like when Jim Carrey said, I did it because it made me feel good. When you read your 3x5 cards, you want to nail it with triggers like sayings and one-liners and paragraphs and pictures that make you feel good, that you've already accomplished it. Not that you're going to. I never put a goal date on anything. If you do put a goal, say on or before. If it's an income, put that amount, $10,000 a month or more. Don't limit yourself because there could be something greater right there for you that's going to, that be there for you. That's takes it even further than what you thought. Like if I would have said, I just want my health and, I'll stay in the same house, or I didn't even address the house. I didn't address the cars. I could have my health back, but I would be unfulfilled in these other areas. So don't limit yourselves. There's ways to write these things up. And I go over that in detail in that FaceTime. L&R is that whenever the law of rhythm wants to bring you back over, that's breaking the law of non-resistance. Anything that's contrary to what you've written down on your 3x5 card, any thought and feeling that it produces that's contrary to it, it's the obstacle, it's the challenge that gets in the way from you being here, your mind will want to automatically bring those up in the beginning. That's breaking the law of non-resistance. So the definition of the law of non-resistance is think nothing contrary to your goal. Don't focus on any of the obstacles. Only stay focused. So when your mind, the law of rhythm brings you back to the obstacles, you have to switch that. Think of a light signal where the red light comes on, stop, take a breath, say, thank you very much, but I choose this. And you can write out your affirmations that way too. It causes less resistance. I choose to receive $10,000 for acting services rendered on a monthly basis, residually, passively. I don't know. You can write it in any way you want. Casey Pluff, who's just been a rock star, like she polarized it so fast. She became successful so quickly. And she got a hold of me and she said, I'm loving it, changing people's lives. And it's amazing. Like everything I've asked for, I've got, but I'm stressed because I'm so busily engaged with changing people's lives. Like everything that's happening is great, but it's stressing me out. And all I said was, why did you write that into your 3x5? Why did you write that into your goal? Or why did you write that into your story? And she said, oh my gosh, thank you, bye, hangs up. All of a sudden I see her on the beach, at the pool, on vacation, on some island. I went to an island, I can't remember which islands it was now, because she went there. And like she took so many pictures every time she went there that I said, hey, how is that island? And she said, yeah, totally go. This is where you need to go. And so we did. So she wrote out the busyness. Like, how would you do that? I don't know. You got to think about it. How would you write that out and still maintain? It's a fairy tale life. It's a dream life. And you can write in the incredible fairy tale ending that allows you to write out that busyness and still accomplish the same things. Okay, so that's pretty much it. I want to just check in and see if anybody has any questions, any comments. And if you have a question, maybe some of you already know, you can type into the questions box. I don't see any, so I didn't say that early on. But I just hope that this has been a benefit to you. I'm going to post it on YouTube, so that'll go up today. It'll be on the Mechanic to Millionaire channel, and you'll be able to share it there. And again, I just hope that you find great value of this, and that it's a representation of the possibilities, each one of you. And think about it, like in the beginning, it was about my family, and it still is about my family. But it's grown and includes a bigger family now. To me, bringing heaven to earth is when every single person on this earth is successfully and progressively accomplishing their goals and then saying what's next and accomplishing it. And that's the shift that this world's going to. A lot of people think, I'm not even going to say a lot of people. People may think that the world's going to hell in the handbasket. That's because they watch the news where it's negative all the time, and they cast a vision of what's not right. They break the law of non-resistance on the news. I mean, if you want to go see what it's like to break the law of non-resistance, just go watch the news. They're telling you everything that's bad, that you don't want in your life, or we don't want in the world. Don't watch the news. CNN stands for constantly negative news. The world is not going to hell in a handbasket. I travel the world, and the world is incredible, and people are becoming. Look at people as becoming, meaning moving forward. Regardless of their circumstances, people are always learning something that's preparing them for the next step. If it's more pain, that pain is still preparing them to say, okay, I've had enough of this. I'm ready to change. And guess what happens whenever the student is ready? The teacher appears. So the world is becoming, and God's in control, and he's the ultimate supreme power, and he's taking the world right where he wants it to go through us. And so it's paramount. It's our responsibility as individuals to first move our lives forward. And think of your family as you start to do this for yourself. Don't go out and start to teach this to other people. Go out and show other people. Become a representation of the possibilities. I know people that have made the mistake of now going out and trying to change other people without first changing themselves. They take it upon themselves as, that's my responsibility. This person is messing up in this, and this area. And so I'm going to go fix it. No, fix your own life. Like Gandhi said, be the change you want to see in the world. Be the representation of the possibilities, and you will influence way more people more effectively. Your actions speak so loudly that they don't hear what you say. They hear what you are and what you do. And so, that's a good note to end on right there. So just want to thank you guys for the opportunity to share this. Let's share this. Let's get it out there. Let's get the world to become in the right way now. Let's get them to recognize that the superstar is within them and that all possibilities are possible. All right, you guys. Let's see. Is there a way you strengthened your intuition and received the message from God to fulfill your purpose? Yeah, that's an evolving process as you start to do the work, as you start to ponder, and as you start to write out your goals. You want to be quiet as you do them. And why am I doing this? What's the law of compensation? What's the value that I'm bringing to the world and to other people? That's how you should start off. Well, it's not necessarily how you should start off. You should be thinking about the things that you want to. Having the car, having the home, having the clothes, having the vacations, that is totally divine. That is something that you should be pursuing. It's built into us, and it's what we should be having in our lives, is the greatest that there is to offer. God has put this beautiful earth and things in it for our enjoyment. So you can start off with having those things now. We have to give something in order to get. And the value that we give to people needs to be greater than what we're charging. So if it's a service or a product, it needs to be greater. And I talk about this in the video, the FaceTime that I did on building out your vision boards. So as we're doing that, that's where you start to listen, and you build the value in, like, even if it's just an abstract idea as you're writing it out, like, I help people to become happier, more engaged in life. I help them to become passionate about life. Even though you don't know what that is, it will start to reveal itself to you when you assume that. Like when I was standing behind the podium, I didn't know exactly what it was. It was more of an abstract idea, but I wrote it out in a very precise way, in a material way. Like, to put it into ink, I have to materialize that abstract thought. So I just wrote it out that I make people happy. I help people to become happy. I share and impart information that changes their lives. I didn't know what information that was going to be. I didn't know what products I was going to offer to make an impact in their life, but it showed up. So it becomes more and more clear. And that intuition, and when you obey the laws, they're not going to steer you wrong in what you write out. So they're going to align you in harmony. Like, well, that's as far as I want to go with that, because I could go down a whole nother rabbit hole that would lead off into different pathways that would need to be explained and just take too long. So it starts to manifest itself as you do the work, okay? But write out that value once you have come up with the things that you want. How you gonna give value to other people? Now, you may not know the product or the service. Come up with the results. What happened to those people because you were engaged with them? Okay. All right. Let's see. Yeah, so I find myself not wanting to read my vision boards or cards. I feel like I have to work at it, and my mind is totally resisting it. How do I change that? Yeah, that's just a discipline. It's like getting up and doing push-ups every morning. At first, it's hard. And something might inspire you to do push-ups. So that inspiration gets you out of bed for the first 5 days, and you do 25 push-ups. It's that 6th day when you're got to bed late, or you ate something that didn't serve you before you went to bed, and so your biological rhythm's off, your mental rhythm's off, and you don't feel like doing push-ups. The only way you change your behavior is by doing things that your mind doesn't want to do. Aha! I mean, that makes total sense. That's common sense. The only way you change your behavior is by forcing yourself with your willpower, and have already decided what are those things, forcing yourself to do them when your brain doesn't want to do them. Now, day 6, you force yourself to do it. Day 7, you force yourself to do it. Day 8 was pretty easy because you ate something really good before you went to bed, or something motivated and inspired you, and when you woke up, you felt like doing them on day 8. Day 9, not so much, but you do them anyways. Day 10, day 20, day 25, you're forcing yourself to do push-ups. After 90 days of doing that, you wake up and just automatically and instinctively do push-ups because your mind says, I do push-ups. I'm awesome at push-ups. I do push-ups no matter what. And you'll see people who jog. They'll jog whether it's raining or snowing outside. You'll see a lot of people jogging when the weather's nice. But when it's raining and snowing outside, you see the people who force themselves to their brain to do jogging when they didn't feel like doing it. And now they're a jogger. There's no resistance because their subconscious says, hey, you jog. If it snows outside, it doesn't matter. They don't even think about it. They jog, right? You know people like that. So knowing that the only way you change your behavior is when you do things that your brain doesn't want to do. But you know that those are the things you want to do. Good habits are hard to start, but amazing to live with. They're easy to live with. Like day 90, you just do push-ups now. You love living with the results that you get from the push-ups. They're easy to live with. It's waking up every morning and not doing the push-ups that day, but you wanted to do them. That's not easy. Bad habits are easy to start, but hard to live with. These are things that I've learned from Rod Hairston. So bad habits are easy to start. It's easy to watch TV, but they're hard to live with because they don't get you the vacation that you want to go on. It's not getting you in the house that you want to live in. It doesn't get you out of the car that smokes every time you stop at a stoplight. So they're hard to live with, those habits. Easy to start, hard to live with. So knowing that you have to do things that your brain doesn't want to do for a certain amount of time until all of a sudden something clicks. And all of a sudden, hey, I do push-ups. Hey, I do my vision cards. Hey, I do the vision boards. hey, I get the feeling that goes along. I'm a person who gets the feeling every time I read my vision cards. Okay? So hopefully that helps. I had my own ahas as I was saying that. There you go. Okay, you guys, I'm going to end this now, and it'll be up on YouTube later today. Thanks for joining and making this possible. Have a great day, everyone. Have an awesome day. You already did. See ya.